Hello and welcome to NAFDAC and Your Health. This is where you get seasoned updates about NAFDAC's relentless work in ensuring that the health of Nigerians is protected. My name is Tosin Omolaja. On this edition of the program, we'll examine NAFDAC's contribution to the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Since Nigeria recorded an index case of this dreadful disease, the agency has put a number of measures in place to ensure that Nigeria is properly situated to vanquish this pandemic. Medical devices have become a scarce resource globally due to the catastrophic nature of the pandemic. Nations of the world are struggling to provide enough of such devices to hospitals and healthcare facilities. In Nigeria, the case cannot be essentially different, and the provision of these most essential and critical commodities cannot be taken for granted. NAFDAC, as a proactive agency of government, saddled with the responsibility to regulate and control the manufacture, importation, exportation, distribution, sale, use and advertisement of medical devices, has taken timely and well-structured regulatory steps to ensure that medical devices needed for the fight against COVID-19 are made available and, more importantly, meet the threshold of quality and safety.
NAFDAC is fighting the coronavirus, COVID-19, and is using a holistic, cerebral and scientific approach to combat the coronavirus. As part of the agency's health, safety and environmental management system, to protect the public and safeguard the health of the nation, we have modified our regulatory processes for hand sanitizers and medicines that have potentials or that offer some measure of protection against the virus. NAFDAC routinely gives approvals in clinical trials for drugs or medical products that have been documented to be of quality and have safe clinical efficacy evidences.
These measures are put in place to guarantee positive public health outcomes, some of which include diagnostics necessary to support public health infrastructure and guide the response necessary to combat and address the pandemic. There has been a global effort by innovative diagnostic companies to develop test kits to aid in detection of the virus in patients to guide the management of the disease. NAFDAC, in its bid to support the fight against COVID-19 and ensure the availability of test kits, has reduced the registration to approval timeframe for the diagnostic test kits from 120 working days to 10 working days. Meanwhile, the agency has processed 17 applications using their expedited review window and has granted emergency approval to 7 companies. These companies are granted these approvals to make available for use in Nigeria test kits and other medical devices, including antigen test kits and antibody test kits. An antigen test kit allows the detection of the presence or absence of antigens in the body. This is simply a toxin or structure within a virus that triggers the immune system's response to fight off the infection. It can be detected in the blood before antibodies are made. This device is extremely important for testing of coronavirus because it takes a few days for the immune system to build enough antibodies that can be detected in a test. But antigens can be detected almost immediately after infection, meaning these kits are able to detect the virus in patients with or without symptoms, preferring qualitative results of whether an individual is negative or positive. The antibody test kits, on the other hand, can detect first if a person has the virus and has beaten it, and also if the person has built some sort of immunity to it. This test is carried out by pricking the finger for blood and should have results typically in about 15 minutes. The availability of personal protective equipment, PPE, for healthcare providers is a critical component of their efforts to stem the COVID-19 pandemic. These PPEs include gloves, protective goggles, face shields, protective gowns and masks in the form of particulate respirators and surgical masks. This must meet certain technical requirements and specifications in order to achieve their objective and offer some measure of protection to healthcare providers and limit their exposure to the infection. With the race to combat the novel virus and bring the current global lockdown to end, also comes the proliferation and falsification of medical devices. NAFDAC, however, is not resting on its oars in ensuring that in Nigeria, only the best is made available to the people. The agency's regulatory measures put in place to ensure quality, safety, and efficacy are strictly implemented. These measures are supported by documentation, which includes prior registration and approval by reference regulatory authorities such as those of Japan, USA, Germany, Canada, European Medicines Agency, and so on. Registration by the regulatory authority in the country of manufacture. Declaration of conformity. Validation, performance, evaluation, clinical evaluation report. In addition to these requirements, the full approval of any diagnostic test kits by NAFDAC for COVID-19 will be subject to in-country validation to assess the sensitivity or rate of failure, that is, indication of false positives, and specificity. NAFDAC gave provisional emergency use authorization to test kits companies pending in-country validation by reference Ministry of Health labs for sensitivity tests. If the sensitivity is declared acceptable by the reference labs, NAFDAC can then give full approval and the test kits can be made available for use. Failure to comply could lead to revocation of any approval granted for importation of the products and forfeiture of same to the agency for destruction. NAFDAC's laboratories have also been readied for the task of testing and certification of the medical devices. At the agency's Agolo lab in Anambra State, medical devices of all sorts are tested to global standards.
We have very good and sophisticated equipment, and we have a sterile room that we use to determine the sterility of maybe injections and things that are meant to be sterile or medical devices. And we have a lot of equipment that we use also for our medical devices analysis. Any result we release from this place, it is compared to any other lab because we are accredited to ISO 17025:2015. So we are recognized worldwide with respect to our quality and whatever we do.
NAFDAC is part of the African Medical Devices Forum, AMDF, a technical working group of African medical products regulatory harmonization, AMRH, that has a joint secretariat with WHO. Deliberations of the forum that will be shared with the AMRH Steering Committee for approval and implementation will further guide NAFDAC. Some of the technical issues that will come out of the deliberations includes updates on the list of COVID-19 in vitro diagnostics and medical devices, substandard and falsified commodities, and handling of donations. NAFDAC, therefore, will continue to stay abreast of current best global practices in this area and monitor updates to the WHO-collated list of medical devices being used by different countries. In the early days of the reemergence of coronavirus in Nigeria, NAFDAC took some timely and proactive steps to encourage local manufacturing of vital products like hand sanitizers, to curb the spread of the virus in our communities.
In terms of sanitizers, sanitizers are for prevention, and as part of our mandate to safeguard the health of our nation, I discussed with my directors on the availability of sanitizers and how many companies are on our database, or are in our database rather, that have been registered to produce sanitizers. These companies were registered during the Ebola crisis. The Honorable Minister of State in the Ministry of Health also called for possibility of Regd making sanitizers. I called many of the companies that have registered sanitizers before to ascertain capacity to make what the country needs, because my own goal is to make sure that the local manufacturers have the opportunity to make products that we can use within the country. Realizing after the calls that the companies don't have enough capacity for making sanitizers, I gave a directive that we could do expedited review of approval of registration for sanitizers. About 6 companies are now being considered for the expedited review. That is additional 6 companies, aside from those that are already in our database. That is for prevention.
The list of expedited provisional approvals for sanitizers has since increased from 6 additional sanitizer companies to 50 companies, aside from the 21 manufacturers that were in the database before COVID-19. We'll take a short break now. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching NAFDAC and Your Health. The agency also recommended chloroquine for clinical trials in Nigeria. Other researchers in France, US, have used the drug for clinical trial treatment of COVID-19 and the reported effectiveness of the drug. Chloroquine works by increasing endosomal pH from the acidic environment required for virus and cell fusion, resulting in the inhibition of infection of SARS-CoV. It also interferes with the glycosylation of cellular receptor, angiotensin-converting enzyme. This may inhibit the virus receptor binding and terminate their infection. It was also reported in literature to work by binding to porphyrin that the virus needs for replication, thus preventing its replication and hastening recovery in clinical trial treatment. Porphyrin is a breakdown product of the action of COVID-19 on the attack on hemoglobin in the red blood cells. This attack was reported to deplete the COVID-19 patients of oxygen, causing difficulty in breathing. This could be true based on the symptom the patient manifests. The antiviral and anti-inflammatory effects of chloroquine contributes to the efficacy in clinical trial treatment of COVID-19 patients. NAFDAC advises the public to desist from its use without the guidance of a medical doctor or clinician for cases of clinical trial treatment of COVID-19. It has effects such as gastrointestinal upset, blurred vision, headache, and pruritus. The itching can be relieved by using antihistamine. Prolonged use can also cause retinopathy or vision impairment. Therefore, it must not be sold or bought over the counter at pharmacies or self-medicated.
Clinical protocols must be presented to guide the use of chloroquine, and the interest of the public and safeguarding the public health are paramount.
The agency ordered the manufacturing of chloroquine for emergency stock for possible clinical trial treatment of coronavirus. This production was undertaken by one of the country's leading pharmaceutical companies, May & Baker, a member of Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Group of Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, whose flagship product in the past was chloroquine. This is also part of the agency's drive to encourage local manufacturing in order to prevent fake and unwholesome medicines in Nigeria and achieve drug security in the country.
When you talk of drug security, you have to immediately think of local capacity. At the peak of HIV/AIDS, over 30-something million Africans died because there were no drugs for HIV/AIDS. That is what is called drug insecurity in the continent. And that is what I've been advocating since I took office, that our local capacity should be significantly improved. Right now we have about 30% local production, 70% import. I would like us to turn it around to 70-30, meaning 70% local and 30% as imports, because we will always import, no matter what. We will always import. It is just the ratio. How much can we import that will make us secure if there is a problem? Not running helter-skelter looking for others to help us. So it is extremely important to assist, to come alongside our local manufacturing.
Sadly, because this particular medicine had been reported to be successful in the treatment of COVID-19 in various parts of the world, counterfeiters have also sprung into their sinister act of producing fake chloroquine, which the WHO has alerted to be circulating in different parts of the world, including neighboring Cameroon, Niger, Congo, and other parts of Africa. NAFDAC, however, has heightened surveillance across the country, and especially at ports of entry across the country and land borders, to prevent importation of these dangerous medicines, which lacks the required active pharmaceutical ingredients and can indeed be lethal. NAFDAC has also made clear that unlike chloroquine, no vaccines have been approved for any clinical trial. Vaccines take longer to produce, usually between 12 to 18 months, and cannot be certified fit for use until after clinical trials must have been conducted in different countries. This will be followed by rigorous in-country assessment in line with laid down protocols to further ensure safety and efficacy.
Where we are going as an organization is to we are benchmarking our activities to make sure that we have international standards, we have international best practices or global best practices. So we are comparing ourselves with the best in the world. And part of what we are doing is to get to a level, a ranking that will allow Nigeria to be able to manufacture their own vaccines. So we will manufacture and then we test.
The most effective way to avoid spreading or contracting this virus is to stay indoors and maintain proper hygiene, wash hands regularly, and self-isolate for 14 days if you have been in contact with a confirmed infected person. It's time for the news on NAFDAC Update.
NAFDAC sets pathway for expedited registration of masks and personal protection equipment. The agency has put in place an expedited registration pathway to allow the granting of emergency use authorization for masks and personal protection equipment (PPEs). The different types of face masks are surgical or medical masks meant for use by medical and health personnel in health facilities, especially while treating patients. Non-surgical mask, also called non-medical face mask or community masks, including various forms of self-made or commercial masks or face covers made of cloth and other textiles. These masks are not designed for use in healthcare facilities or by healthcare professionals. Other masks include the N95 mask, N98 mask, and KN95 mask. NAFDAC mops up fake sanitizers from markets across the country. Post-marketing surveillance of hand sanitizers is ongoing in the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory in order to protect the public from unregistered and fake sanitizers. The reports from Borno, Gombe, Bauchi, Delta, and the FCT indicates that there are many unregistered sanitizers in the different states, except in Delta State, where all the sanitizers found in the different establishments are duly registered. All the unregistered sanitizers found thus far have been mopped from the market, but surveillance continues. Consumers should be wary of these fake sanitizers as they are not efficacious and cannot protect users from harmful germs and viruses. Before buying any sanitizer, the public are implored to look out for the following features on the label of the sanitizer: the name of the product, the name and full location address of the manufacturer, NAFDAC registration number, product composition stating the volume concentration of the active ingredient, manufacturing and expiring date, batch number, storage condition, net content of the product, and lastly, caution and warnings. Alert on falsified chloroquine phosphate 250 mg tablets circulating in Cameroon. NAFDAC has been notified by the World Health Organization on the circulation of falsified chloroquine phosphate 250 mg tablets in Cameroon. The falsified chloroquine phosphate 250 mg tablets are manufactured by Jiangsu Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, Longqiu Road, Yingxing, Jiangsu, China, with labeling as follows: batch number 660, manufacturing date 09/2018, expiry date 09/2022, code MH/drugs/KD271, labeled fake NAFDAC number 028060. Another company producing such is Astral Pharmaceuticals, new Bhupalpura, registration number 058761, with labeling information as follows: batch number EBT2542, date of manufacture 01/2019, expiry date 10/2022, fake registration number 05876112. The falsified chloroquine phosphate 250 mg tablets manufactured by the aforementioned companies have no active pharmaceutical ingredients API and are in packs of 1,000 tablets. The use of falsified chloroquine phosphate may result in treatment failure and even death. The public are therefore warned not to buy any chloroquine off the shelf or use chloroquine without doctor's prescription. NAFDAC has heightened surveillance in all 36 states of the Federation and the FCT to prevent the distribution and sale of these fake chloroquine in Nigeria. The Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, has also given directives to the agency's operatives at ports of entry to prevent importation of these fake drugs. That's it on NAFDAC Update. You've been updated.
This is how far we can go today. Join us again next week for another insightful edition. In the meantime, if you have questions, comments, or inquiries, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach NAFDAC via toll-free numbers. For inquiries, call 0700-162-3322. For complaints, please call 0800-162-3322 or email nafdac@nafdac.gov.ng. Always remember that safeguarding the health of the nation is our collective responsibility. So if you have information about fake and unwholesome food and drugs or activities that create them, kindly let us know. Till next week, stay safe.